Faloma and Maleina Luhk were more than sisters, they were best friends. They were born just a year apart. Faloma was 10 and known for her outgoing, lively nature, while 9-year-old Maleina was gentle and shy, often sticking close to her older sister. They grew up in the small, close-knit village of Acosta on Saipan, part of the Northern Mariana Islands. In April of 2010, just over a year before Faloma and Maleina disappeared, Acosta village was home to around 317 residents, according to the U.S. Census data. Their life was simple, shaped by the close-knit island culture where neighbors knew each other and families often lived together across generations. Most days, the girls followed a routine familiar to many. They got up early, helped with small chores, and headed to school. Friends and relatives later described them as bright, polite, and playful, the kind of children who rarely gave their grandparents any trouble. At the time of their disappearance, the girls were being raised by their paternal grandparents, who had taken legal custody in 2007. Their mother, Germaine Quitagua, had moved to Guam to work in the family catering business, seeking better opportunities. She remained supportive, but lived off-island. Their father, Rutik Luhk, was residing in Pohnpei, part of the Federated States of Micronesia. Authorities confirmed neither parent was present on Saipan on the morning of May 25, 2011, and each was ruled out as a suspect. The girls were part of a loving, modest family. The grandparents ran a small business selling shaved ice and smoothies and were active in their lives, ensuring they ate well, did chores, and attended Cagman Elementary School like other kids their age. On the morning of May 25, 2011, the sisters left home at around 6:10 a.m., carrying backpacks labeled with their names and phone numbers. After walking the short distance, about 300 feet, to their school bus stop, they vanished without a trace before the bus arrived. Since then, no confirmed sighting, clue, or explanation has surfaced. What no one could have imagined that day is that neither Faloma nor Maleina would ever make it to school, and from that moment forward, their presence would vanish without a trace. Join me for another odd, strange, and mysterious story here at Odd Mystery Stories. On the morning of May 25, 2011, Faloma and Maleina Luhk left their grandparents' home before sunrise, heading just a short distance to their usual bus stop near the Santa Lourdes Shrine in Saipan. At 6:10 a.m., a neighbor saw the sisters waiting quietly, backpacks in hand, just as they did every school day. But when the bus arrived at 6:30, they were gone. Not a single witness saw them leave, board another vehicle, or walk away. Their belongings disappeared with them. That brief 20-minute window between when they were last seen and when the bus pulled up remains the most baffling part of the case. This narrow time frame became the focus of the investigators, who struggled with the lack of immediate clues. The area around the bus stop was thick with vegetation and curved roads, making it difficult for anybody nearby to see what had happened. The girls were familiar with this spot, their daily routine unbroken until that morning. Their grandparents insisted there was no reason for them to run away, and Faloma, just 10 years old, always looked out for her younger sister. A major obstacle in the search was the school's absence policy. School policy delayed any official missing person alerts by days. By the time anyone realized the girls hadn't arrived at school, critical hours had already slipped by. In missing child cases, the first 48 hours are crucial. The delay meant that when authorities finally began searching, any potential trail was already cold. The tropical climate, with its sudden rain showers, could have easily washed away footprints or other evidence within hours. Despite these setbacks, the response was massive. Within days, 20 FBI agents, specialized search dogs flown in from Hawaii, helicopters, and hundreds of volunteers combed every corner of Saipan. Search teams pushed through thick brush, checked abandoned buildings, and canvassed neighborhoods. Still, there were no signs of a struggle, no dropped items, no witnesses who saw anything suspicious. The only thing left behind was a haunting silence. That 20-minute gap left investigators with endless questions. Did someone watch the girls and act quickly? Was this a crime of opportunity, or did someone plan it in advance? The lack of witnesses suggested either remarkable luck for the perpetrator or a level of planning that stunned the community. As authorities pieced together the timeline, one detail from witness reports began to stand out, a detail that would soon become the next major lead in the investigation. The gray truck quickly became the center of attention. Two garbage collectors making their early morning rounds saw the same gray Nissan pickup idling with its headlights on near the Santa Lourdes Shrine bus stop on May 11th. The following Wednesday, May 18th, just 1 week before the girls vanished, they saw the truck again, this time driving slowly towards the pavilion. The driver stood out, a Pacific Islander man in his 30s with a noticeable birthmark on his cheek. These sightings were burned into their memory, but at the time, the collectors had no idea how important this detail would become. After the disappearance, the FBI wasted no time. They circulated detailed descriptions of the truck and the driver, posting flyers all over Saipan. The posters described the gray Nissan pickup and the man's distinct facial mark, hoping someone in the community would recognize either. Investigators canvassed other garbage crews working nearby, but no one else had seen the truck or its driver. This made the collector's account even more significant. This was the only reported sighting, and it stood alone. But the investigation hit a wall. The garbage collectors had seen the truck from a distance, early in the morning, with only dim street lights and dawn breaking. They couldn't provide a license plate number or any more specific details. Without that, the FBI couldn't trace the vehicle, and the lead stayed frustratingly out of reach. The gray Nissan never turned up, despite the island's small size and the limited number of vehicles. Investigators checked ferry records and vehicle registries, but with so many cars coming and going, tracking one truck was like finding a needle in a haystack. The truck's repeated presence at the bus stop raised chilling questions. Was someone watching the girls, learning their routine, and waiting for the right moment? The timing, 2 consecutive Wednesdays before the abduction, suggested planning, not coincidence. Whoever was behind the wheel seemed to know exactly where to be and when. The idea that someone could watch, wait, and strike so quickly unsettled the entire community. The FBI considered this their most promising lead early on. Special Agent Rick Bauer urged the public to come forward, saying, quote, "We believe someone in the community knows this vehicle." The agency increased the reward to $25,000, hoping to shake loose any information, no matter how small. They targeted not just Saipan, but the broader Micronesian area, encouraging anyone who might have heard something through the supposed coconut wire to speak up. Still, the gray truck and its driver slipped away, leaving behind only questions. The community's sense of safety shattered, and the search for answers grew more desperate. As investigators pressed every angle on the truck, another figure in the case began to draw attention. Someone whose actions after the girls disappeared stood out even more than a mysterious vehicle. Alan Santos Aguon's name surfaced early on in the investigation, not just as a local firefighter, but as someone connected to the Luhk family by marriage. When federal agents approached him for a polygraph test, a common tool for gauging cooperation, Aguon refused. While a polygraph isn't foolproof and its results rarely see the inside of a courtroom, the refusal alone set tongues wagging across Saipan. In cases like this, public perception can be just as powerful as hard evidence. Even if the science is shaky, turning down the test made Aguon stand out. But it wasn't just a polygraph. In the weeks after the girls vanished, Aguon resigned from his job with the fire department, sold his car, and left Saipan, reportedly to reunite with relatives in Washington state. That chain of decisions coming so soon after the disappearance made his actions hard to ignore. Most people in his position, especially those trained to help in emergencies, might be expected to stay and assist in the search. Instead, Aguon put distance between himself and the island at the very moment the investigation heated up. A year later, Aguon was arrested for domestic violence in Washington, reinforcing the investigators' concerns about his volatility. The charge wasn't directly linked to the girl's case, but it painted a troubling picture and added another layer of suspicion. Law enforcement dug into his background, searching for any sign of previous issues or connections to the girls beyond the family gatherings. There were no reports of inappropriate contact or incidents before May of 2011, but the timing and the nature of his actions kept him in the FBI's sights. His move to the mainland complicated things for investigators. Tracking a person of interest across state lines is never simple, and without a witness or forensic evidence tying Aguon to the scene, there was little the authorities could do beyond monitoring him. He was never officially named a suspect, just a, quote, person of interest. But that label stuck, fueled by the island's whispers in the shadow of unanswered questions. Despite these red flags, law enforcement lacked forensic or witness proof to bring charges, leaving Aguon an open question mark in the file. There's a difference between suspicion and evidence, and in this case, the gap was just too wide. For years, his name lingered in conversations, but the investigation had to move forward. It would take several more years before the FBI's attention shifted to a new name, one already infamous on the island, and one whose criminal record brought a different kind of fear. Seven years after the disappearance, the FBI's investigation turned toward Joseph Acosta Crisostomo, a name already well known on Saipan for violent crimes. By 2018, Joseph was serving time for rape and murder. His reputation alone made people uneasy. But what set this lead apart was a specific property in Culberville, land owned by Joseph's family. The FBI's interest in that land was no secret. Under a warrant, agents spent days unearthing yards of soil with heavy machinery, including a backhoe, searching for any sign of Faloma and Maleina. They brought in experts, combed through the area, and left no stone unturned. Yet after all that effort, nothing surfaced. No clothing, no remains, not even a single clue to tie the sisters to that property. Joseph's attorney didn't waste time pointing out a glaring issue. Records show he was incarcerated until December of 2011, months after the May abduction. For most investigations, an airtight alibi like that would be the end of the story. But in cases where leads have gone cold, law enforcement often revisits anyone with a violent history, especially those with ties to the area or the families involved. Sometimes these efforts pay off. Cold cases have been cracked when new evidence links a known offender to an old crime. But more often, the search comes up empty, and the community is left with more questions than answers. The FBI never publicly explained what first drew their focus to Joseph. Was it a tip, a rumor, or just a process of elimination after years with no progress? The property dig became a spectacle, covered by local news and watched closely by the island's residents. When the search ended without results, it left some people frustrated, wondering if the authorities were grasping at straws, or if they'd missed the real answer hiding in plain sight. With Joseph effectively ruled out by his incarceration dates and the fruitless search, the case returned to square one. The FBI kept the investigation open, and their $25,000 reward stayed on the table, but the years kept slipping by. Witnesses faded, and hope that the next lead would bring answers began to wear thin. For the families, the lack of answers was more than just a setback. It was a wound that refused to heal. The silence left room for suspicion, for theories that cut much closer to home. And as frustration grew, some began to wonder if the truth wasn't somewhere out in the shadows, but instead hidden among those the girls trusted most. Suspicions within the Luhk family have lingered since the early days of the investigation, with Tina Palacios, the girl's aunt, voicing a theory that unsettles even the closest relatives. She's been clear about her belief, quote, "Only one person knows what happened and where those girls are at. I truly believe it's a family member." In a place like Saipan where family ties run deep and everyone knows each other's business, saying something like that takes nerve. But Palacios has never backed down, convinced that the answers lie within their own circle. Investigators quickly cleared the parents, their alibis held up, and there was no evidence to suggest they were involved. But that left the extended family under a microscope, especially those who had regular access to Faloma and Maleina in the days before they vanished. The FBI looked into relatives who might have had conflicts, old grudges, or hidden motives. According to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, roughly 5% of missing child cases involve abduction by a non-parent family member or someone known to the child. That number is small, but it's enough to make investigators look hard at everyone close to the girls. Family abductions are complicated. There are rarely obvious warning signs. Unlike stranger abductions, which can leave behind confusion or evidence, these disappearances often unfold quietly. The child may not even realize anything is wrong until it's too late. In the Luhk case, there were no screams, no struggle, and no sign of panic at the bus stop. If someone familiar pulled up and offered a ride, the girls might have gone willingly, trusting the face behind the wheel. Palacios' theory isn't based on hunches alone. When children vanish without a trace, investigators know to look first at those closest to them. The challenge is proving it. Without physical evidence or a confession, suspicion can only go so far. The FBI interviewed multiple family members, including those related by marriage, but none of these conversations led to a breakthrough. In a community as tight-knit as Saipan, people can be reluctant to speak out against their own, even if they suspect something is wrong. Every May 25th, the Luhk family holds a memorial mass, a haunting annual reminder that until someone speaks up, the girl's fate remains unknown. The pain is kept alive, not just by the lack of answers, but by the silence that surrounds the case. The possibility that someone within the family could be involved is a wound that never quite heals. As the investigation continues, the theory of family involvement remains, never proven, never fully dismissed. The FBI keeps urging anyone with information to come forward, reminding the community that even the smallest detail could matter. For now, the family's hope rests on the chance that someone, somewhere, will finally decide to break the silence. The FBI search for answers has never let up, and neither has their plea to the public. The agency still offers a $25,000 reward for credible leads about what happened to Faloma and Maleina Luhk. If you have any information, no matter how old, call 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit tips at tips.fbi.gov. Special Agent Rick Bauer has emphasized that even details that seem insignificant could matter. Investigators believe rumors and whispers travel quickly through Saipan's, quote, coconut wire, the local network of gossip and news. In a community where everyone is connected, someone may be holding on to a piece of the puzzle, waiting for the right moment to speak. From the beginning, the FBI has understood the unique challenges of working in a place like Saipan. Fear of retaliation and distrust of law enforcement can keep people silent, especially in small island communities. That's why they've made it clear. Tips can be given anonymously. No one needs to put their name on the line, just their knowledge. Flyers have gone out in Chamorro and Carolinian, reaching not only those still on the island, but the Micronesian migration scattered across the mainland U.S. The hope is that, somewhere out there, a conversation or a memory will surface that could finally break the case. What makes this case especially difficult is the lack of physical evidence. There are no fingerprints, no DNA, no personal belongings recovered from the scene. The girls' backpacks vanished along with them. Even after Saipan's largest search effort, mobilizing more than 500 volunteers, divers, and even an FBI C-130 aircraft, the files remain open. Investigators have chased every lead, from rumors of human trafficking to the idea that the girls might have been taken off the island by boat, but nothing has panned out. The investigation relies almost entirely on what people saw, heard, or remember. After more than a decade, the case remains unsolved. Agents still review the evidence and follow up on new tips, hoping that advances in technology or a sudden breakthrough will shed light on what happened. The family continues to speak out, keeping the girls' names alive in the hope that someone will finally come forward. For Saipan, the Luhk sisters, disappearance is more than just a cold case. It's a wound that changed the way people see their home. This story serves as a stark reminder that even the safest places can be touched by tragedy. Before May 25, 2011, Saipan felt a place where children could wait for the school bus without fear. That changed the morning Faloma and Maleina Luhk vanished. From caves to jungles to the Marpi landfill, 20 FBI agents, local police, and 500 volunteers covered over 400 sites. The search remains the largest in CNMI history. Still, no trace of the girls was ever found. If alive today, Faloma would be 24, Maleina 23, two young women lost in the shadows of that morning. Years have gone on. The Luhk sisters' bus stop is a memorial, and the FBI's hotline still rings, waiting for the call that finally brings them home. Hey, thanks for sticking with me through another odd mystery. My name is Vince. If you enjoyed this story and want to help keep the channel going, consider buying me a coffee or joining the Patreon crew. Even a few bucks goes a long way toward uncovering more strange and unsolved cases. Patreon members get special recognition for subscribing. Some even see the research notes on what's coming next. And more members even help pick the next case. You'll find links in the description. Thanks again for watching. Stay curious and stay safe. Thank you.